Hi, I'm Asher, and welcome to Wise Words, Palabras Sabias. Here we bring you powerful quotes to inspire your day. Have you ever stopped to think about the duality present in our reality? It begins by teaching us that in our existence, everything manifests in pairs of opposites, from the extremes of joy to sadness, generosity to greed, warmth to cold. All these contrasts coexist in the world around us. The principle of polarity is one of the 7 Hermetic principles that unveil the fundamental mysteries of the universe. Hermetics believe that to understand the workings of the cosmos fully, it is essential to embrace polarity, recognizing that extremes are merely different degrees of the same reality. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Polarity is the fundamental. What is polarity? Peace that reveals that everything is interconnected. It applies not only to the details we observe in the universe, but also to the functioning of the human mind. It can also be applied to our emotions. For example, heat and cold are not opposing entities, but rather different degrees of temperature. Vibration, just as love and hate, which are variations of the same emotion with differences. Only in intensity, understanding the principle of polarity deeply opens a portal to our growth and expansion. In this video, we will offer this understanding by delving into every aspect of this fundamental Hermetic principle that manifests in all aspects of existence, understanding the law of applications. Polarity is one of the keys to unlocking the power of the mind over reality. The principle of polarity is a powerful tool for understanding the functioning of the universe and our own nature. Like the other Hermetic laws attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, this principle permeates not only the spiritual and philosophical world, but also applies in scientific and practical fields in electricity. For example, understanding the polarity of circuits is essential for energy to flow effectively. Additionally, psychology uses the principle of polarity to understand how extremes of excessive care or neglect can shape human development in medicine. The dosing of substances is an evident example. The same substance that can be a remedy in the right amount can become poison in excess in the world of astrology. Each planet's planet has its own vibrational polarity. Some vibrate at warm frequencies like Mars, while others have a cooler vibration like Pluto. If you observe nature carefully, you will notice the duality that permeates the universe at all times. Light and darkness are not separate entities, but 2 extremes of the same electromagnetic spectrum. Light is simply the presence of photons, while darkness is the absence of them. These 2 states cannot exist independently. They are connected in a single reality, which is light and darkness. This reflects the Hermetic principle that opposites are identical in nature, differing only in degree. Another example can be seen in the seasons of the year. Summer and winter are opposites, but they are also interdependent and inseparable in their continuous cycle. The heat of summer would have no meaning without the cold of winter to provide contrast. This illustrates how this principle operates in nature, where opposites touch and are an integral part of a larger system. The opposite does not nullify but justifies the other. Duality is an intrinsic part of the human experience. Our life is a constant balance between these human mind extremes. Now let's consider how the law of polarity manifests in the human mind. Have you ever thought about the opposite feelings and personalities within you? Our thoughts and emotions are by their very nature polarized. We can consciously choose which extreme we wish to vibrate. Psychological development throughout life is often characterized by polarity. Childhood and adolescence are transitional phases where dependence turns into independence. The polarity between the need for security and the pursuit of autonomy is an example of this. Psychology recognizes that opposing emotions such as love and hate, fear, and courage are interconnected on a spectrum. Polarity does not place them as independent entities but as variations of the same theme. Understanding this is fundamental for self-awareness and emotional management. For example, someone who wants psychology to overcome fear may seek to develop courage, recognizing that both emotions share the same root. The principle of polarity teaches us that to achieve balance and wisdom, we must understand and embrace our dualities, rather than see them as separate or opposing. This knowledge enables you to navigate the complexities of life more wisely and consciously, instead of considering good and evil as antagonistic forces. We need to consider them different degrees of the same polarity to effectively apply the law of polarity in your life. It is essential to seek balance. It involves self-awareness, understanding your own extremes, and seeking internal harmony. Through this process, we can learn to direct our thoughts, emotions, and actions in a more balanced way. Have you ever noticed how the law of polarity manifests in you and in the universe? Are you willing to embrace your opposites for a better life? Artius, a renowned Hermetic philosopher, invented a Kabbalistic magnet that reportedly drew the aura or mysterious spirit of human efflorescence and thriving bodily growth from young men, concentrating this vital essence in his aging body through inspiration, transmutation, or other occult means. While this seems absurd, it is not entirely unreasonable when viewed sympathetically. The Rosicrucians, always fiercely protective of their secrets, spoke primarily in enigmas and parables. They adopted the motto of one of their early Christian Gnostic members, "Learn to know all but keep thyself unknown." Many are the perplexing questions about life and destiny that humans seek to answer. Does life continue after death, our mind and thought, independent of the physical body? Do humans have higher faculties than those we use daily? And if so, how can they be awakened? The Rosicrucians have their roots in the ancient teachings of the Atlantans, who passed on their knowledge to the early Egyptians. This knowledge has been passed down to the present day, both through tradition and through writings. The order as we know it today was founded in Europe during the Middle Ages. Its purpose was to teach the esoteric side of Christianity and to introduce Eastern mystery science and philosophy to Europe in a form that was accessible to Western minds. Over the centuries since the Middle Ages, they have accumulated a vast amount of knowledge. This knowledge has proven to be practical, and what cannot be applied to practice has been archived as mystery teachings and treated philosophically rather than scientifically. The Rosicrucians, like the Freemasons, believe in a supreme architect of the universe. However, in the Rosicrucian sense, the term universe refers only to a sun with its attendant planets. The Rosicrucians use the term cosmos to refer to the millions of universes that exist in space. The ruler and guide of all these is a supreme architect or absolute consciousness. They do not believe that this supreme ruler grants favors to every individual being who asks for them. It recognizes that the Supreme has endowed human beings with inherent faculties and powers that they can use to overcome the difficulties that their ignorance may bring. Rosicrucians believe that it is possible to communicate with higher beings, but only for those who have evolved their consciousness to a high level. Such beings would have no need to manifest in the physical world, but they can still communicate with those who are spiritually receptive. Space is populated by entities of all levels of consciousness, some of which have embodied in physical form, and others of which have not. True Rosicrucians know that these entities can help humanity, regardless of whether or not have been embodied in flesh. All human beings have the potential to evolve their consciousness and communicate with higher beings. The degree to which they can do this depends on how far their consciousness has unfolded. Rosicrucians believe that the mind functions in three ways: the objective mind, the subjective mind, and the superconscious mind. The objective mind is the part of the mind that controls our voluntary actions and works through the cerebral spinal nervous system. It is responsible for our thoughts, perceptions, and memories. The subjective mind. Mind is the part of the mind that controls our involuntary actions and works through the sympathetic nervous system. It is responsible for our emotions, intuitions, and unconscious desires. The superconscious mind is the highest level of consciousness and is the bridge between the objective and subjective minds. It is responsible for our spiritual experiences, creativity, and inner guidance. The three minds are located in different parts of the brain. The objective mind in the cerebrum, the subjective mind in the cerebellum, and the superconscious mind in the medulla oblongata. The cerebrum is responsible for our present moment, awareness, the cerebellum for our past experiences, and the medulla oblongata for our past, present, and future. The superconscious mind is the pinnacle of consciousness. The objective and subjective minds govern the body and soul, while the superconscious mind is the channel through which the spirit expresses itself. Rosicrucians believe that humans are composed of body, soul, and spirit. The key to solving the problems of life and destiny lies in understanding and developing the three minds into one. This is a complex process, but it is essential for those who wish to live their lives to the fullest and achieve their true potential. The three minds are the objective mind, the subjective mind, and the superconscious mind. The objective mind is the rational mind that we use to think, analyze, and make decisions. The subjective mind is the emotional mind that is responsible for our feelings, intuitions, and unconscious desires. The superconscious mind is the highest level of consciousness and is the bridge between the objective and subjective minds. It is responsible for our spiritual experiences, creativity, and inner guidance. In order to develop the three minds into one, we must first learn to understand and control them individually. This can be done through a variety of practices such as meditation, mindfulness, and dream analysis. Once we have a good understanding of our three minds, we can begin to blend them together into a single unified consciousness. This process of unification is known as the great work in Rosicrucian terminology. It is a lifelong journey, but it is one that is well worth taking. When we are able to function at will in any of the three brains, we become truly conscious beings. We are also able to access the vast wisdom and power of the superconscious mind. The Rosicrucians believe that the key to the great work is the right use of the will and the method of controlling the glands, brain, and mind. The will is the driving force behind all change. It is the will that allows us to focus our attention to overcome challenges and to achieve our goals. The glands play an important role in our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. By learning to control the glands, we can improve our health, increase our energy levels, and enhance our cognitive function. The brain is the physical organ through which our consciousness expresses itself. By learning to control the brain, we can improve our concentration, memory, and problem-solving skills. The mind is the sum total of our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. By learning to control the mind, we can achieve greater peace of mind, clarity of thought, and emotional stability. The Rosicrucians teach that the great work is not just a personal journey, it is also a way to serve humanity and make the world a better place. When we are able to live our lives in harmony with our three minds, we become more compassionate, understanding, and loving individuals. We also become more effective agents of change in the world. The mystery of the Trinity is not hidden outside of us. It is within us, in our physical organisms. Nature functions in a threefold manner, and the work of the occultist is to unite their unfolded powers with those of the greater nature. By doing so, they learn the secret of life and death, that there is no death in God's great cosmos, but only progress from one state of matter to another. The occultist learns that the mind can exist outside of a physical body. and can link up with other entities, both embodied and disembodied. Time becomes an illusion to them as they perceive that there is only duration, infinite life everywhere from the smallest microbe to the largest of worlds. When the occultist has rightly unfolded the faculties that lie dormant within them, a world of magic opens up to their mind. They see how they can consciously cause changes within and outside of themselves, as they desire. Or will the path to this unfoldment is not easy. But it is possible for those who are willing to undergo the necessary training. This video is intended for those who believe in the power of the occult, to those who do not. We say learn more about your own brain. There is much potential within it. Do not imprison that which seeks for outer expression. Is there a map that could guide us through the ups and downs of life? An ancient Hermetic secret might hold the key not only to understanding, but also to mastering the fluctuations that govern our lives today. We'll uncover the principle of rhythm, a Hermetic truth that promises a deeper understanding of life cycles. We'll see how stars and civilizations share the same rhythmic fate, and how by mastering this rhythm, we can achieve a new level of balance and purpose. Join us as we trace the influence of this principle from the cosmos to the core of the human experience, revealing how you can apply this age-old wisdom to transform your reality. The principle of rhythm encompasses the reality that everything is governed by an inconsistent rhythm, characterized by a constant swing and oscillation like that of a pendulum alternating between moments of advancement and retreat. This pattern is a universal dance between opposites as demonstrated by the principle of polarity throughout the cosmos. This rhythmic dance unfolds in the stars, in beings, in the ocean's tides, in the energy and substance of all that is palpable and intangible. Itself both in the formation and demise of the cosmos and the rise and decline of civilizations, permeating the existence of all entities and the cycles of human thought. It is in this last aspect that Hermetic scholars see great wisdom as they understand the breadth of its applicability, and thus develop means to mitigate its effects on themselves. They utilize what is known as the mental law of neutralization, not with the intent to invalidate this principle, but to learn to navigate and use its influence to their advantage, achieving a certain level of mastery over it. Essentially, they become conductors of universal law, rather than mere spectators. He who learns the Hermetic codes and paths stabilizes themselves in the position they have chosen, countering the natural tendency to be pulled to the opposite whole by the force of the rhythmic swing. Those who have achieved some level of self-mastery practice this often in a subconscious manner, but the guide does so with full awareness, using their will deliberately. As a result, they attain a state of mental balance and stability that appears almost mythical to those who are tossed back and forth by the rhythmic forces of life. These practices, involving the conscious manipulation of the principles of rhythm and polarity, are cornerstones of the inner transformation proposed by Hermeticism. The principle of rhythm is intrinsically connected to the principle of polarity. It operates within the spectrum, defined by the poles of polarity. However, it is a misconception to think that this rhythmic movement always reaches the extremes. Such instances are rare. In fact, it is often a challenge to identify where exactly these extreme poles are situated. Instead, the rhythmic movement takes place toward one pole and then the other within a spectrum of variation throughout the cosmos. A pattern of action and reaction, advancing and retreating, rising and falling is observed, permeating from the smallest particles to the vast spirals of galaxies. Each entity from the most subtle energy to the highest spirit demonstrates this principle of rhythm. It reveals itself in the birth and disintegration of constellations, in the flourishing and decay of empires, and in the complex tapestry of the history of all living things. and is most intimately observed in the and flow of human mental states, taking spirit as the starting point. The source of all there is a continuous cycle of expansion and contraction, comparable to the cosmic breath, the exhalation and inhalation of Brahman, as described in Brahmanic philosophy. Universes emerge and fall to the densest point of materiality, only to reverse their trajectory towards the ethereal stars form reach the peak of their energy, and after this climax they regress, becoming inert matter, waiting for a new impulse that will awaken their latent forces and initiate a new cycle of solar existence, like stars and constellations. The same cycle of life, death, and rebirth applies to all celestial bodies and physical phenomena. Planets are formed, evolve, and eventually expire, only to be reborn in a perpetual cosmic dance. This unceasing cycle is also reflected in all known structures and forms, from living organisms, undergoing the journey of birth, growth, and death, to social movements, philosophical innovations, belief systems, cultural practices, political regimes, and entire civilizations that rise, flourish, and inevitably decline. Similarly, on a microscopic scale, particles like electrons, atoms, and molecules are in constant vibratory motion, spinning in their own predetermined cycles. The concept of absolute inertia is an illusion. This principle is omnipresent and extends across all planes of existence, being a driving force in every aspect of human life. The rhythmic oscillation of the universe has no exceptions, moving perpetually between extremes in every sphere of action. However, followers of Hermeticism expand this understanding to the mental and emotional spheres of human beings, acknowledging how it shapes the flow of emotions, mental states, and the often disturbing variations we experience internally. Hermetics, through study and practice, have discovered methods of transmutation to mitigate some of the more extreme fluctuations imposed by this principle. Upon reflecting on one's own life, one can see how rhythm influences our existence. Periods of great enthusiasm are often followed by phases of discouragement. Courage seems at times to give way to fear. This alternation of states is a recurring pattern in the lives of many, but few understand the underlying forces behind these psychological variations. Understanding how the principle of rhythm operates gives us the key to managing these fluctuations in feelings, leading to deeper self-awareness, and the ability not to be swept away by these emotional waves will emerge as a force capable of mastering the conscious manifestations of this principle, not to destroy it, which is impossible, but to rise above its effects. The sages of Hermeticism realized that, although the principle of rhythm was constant in mental phenomena, there were two levels of mental manifestation, a lower and a higher. With this knowledge, they managed to rise to the higher level, escaping the rhythmic fluctuations of the lower level. This meant that variations occurred in a subconscious sphere without disturbing the conscious mind. They named this method the law of neutralization, a technique to elevate the self above the fluctuations of the unconscious mental plane, so that consciousness remains unaffected and consequently is not impacted by negative oscillation. Do you want to know more about Hermetic codes? This next video talks precisely about that. If this video made sense to you, please comment. Helpful. Thanks for watching. If you are new on this channel, please subscribe, press the bell icon, and like Wise Words videos.